Hello, and thanks for joining today's webinar on how to budget for your customer success platform in 2020. Today's webinar will be discussing key consumer trends impacting customer service, opportunities, investment in the year ahead as we look towards 2020, and as you think about budgeting for these investments, what you might expect in terms of ROI. It's also worth mentioning that we'll be live tweeting today using the hashtag CSBudget2020 if you want to join the conversation there also. Before we get started, let's first introduce Gladly and who we are. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Gladly, Gladly is a customer service platform that enables business-to-consumer companies to focus on people talking to people throughout a lifetime of naturally productive conversations. My name's Andy Nosp, and I lead the Gladly Solutions Consulting team. And with me today is Pete Chow. Pete?
Hey, thanks, Andy. Hi, I'm Pete Chow, and I lead the Gladly Value Consulting practice. I work with many of Gladly's prospective and current customers to help them understand the business benefits of Gladly and work closely with them to develop business cases, budgets, and ROI models for their customer service teams.
All right, thank you, Pete. So consumer expectations have really changed dramatically over the past 5 to 10 years. So with the emergence of smartphones, social media platforms, and the on-demand economy, consumers have increased expectations for the brands that they do business with in terms of convenience, the quality of their customer service experience. Increasingly, consumers expect that brands know who they are as a customer, brands are able to communicate with consumers on the channel of their preference, and that brands not only help them solve their problem, but are able to provide recommendations on how to get more value from the products and service they've purchased. You know, why is providing a great customer service experience so important? So based on a recent study, 17% of consumers switch brands after only a single negative customer service experience. However, the stakes are even higher if brands fail to remedy the situation, and 84% of consumers switch products or services after 3 negative customer service experiences. So delivering great customer service isn't just a nice to have for your organization, it's really an imperative for the growth of your business. Let's talk a little bit about the agenda for today's discussion. So in today's webinar, we'll be discussing how your business can respond to these increasing consumer expectations by first discussing some of the macro trends impacting customer service and experience. We'll also discuss how you can respond to these trends to ensure that your business is delivering on customer service expectations. And we'll be discussing what other organizations have seen with respect to return on these investments based on the work that we've done with them. So earlier this year, Gladly conducted a study with approximately 1,500 consumers regarding their customer service experiences and expectations. As part of today's discussion, we'll be exploring several of the key trends which emerged out of this study. However, if you'd like to learn more, we encourage you to download the 2019 Customer Expectations Report from our website or view the previously recorded webinar, which explored the findings from this report. Let's go ahead and dive into some of those trends now. The first customer service trend that we'll explore is that customers value experience more than the channel. Providing a holistic omni-channel experience has been top of mind for many brands over the past several years, and for good reason. Year over year, we've seen an increase in consumer expectations for a seamless customer experience across all channels. So for today's consumers, they want to have a great customer experience on the channel they're using and a consistent experience as they switch channels. Let's dive into that a little more deeply. So based on our study, 69% of consumers felt like they were often being treated like a case or a ticket number as compared to a person. Whereas 56% of consumers felt that brands that they did business with didn't understand who they were as a customer, as a person. And then more dramatically, 85% of consumers expect a customer service agent should be aware of and know about the previous interactions that they've had with the business such that they don't have to repeat and recap the problem that they're trying to solve. Now, Pete is going to discuss some of the investment opportunities and potential returns to improve your brand's customer service experience as you look ahead in 2020.
Thanks, Andy. Yes, and there are changes that you can make to your customer service platform to show your customers that you really do know them. I'd love to go over several of these options that you can plan for, and I'll also discuss some of the related ROI considerations coming up. Now, as Andy mentioned, consumers are telling us, they're saying that they feel anonymous. I'm sure we all have personal stories calling into a big company and having to explain and re-explain ourselves. And that whole experience can be quite frustrating. That's why having that one view of the customer is so important. Can your customer service platform today pull in a customer's name? How about their loyalty information, for example? What about recent purchases? These are things that are important to the customer's eyes, especially in the first 20 seconds when they reach a customer representative on your team. And what we see is that companies typically have all this information, but the challenge is they sit in various different spreadsheets, software, platforms, you name it, and it's just difficult to pull it all together into one place. So that's something that you might want to think about investing in. The other three options here relate to customers resolving customer issues quickly. Now, some questions that you might ask are they able to self-serve by finding answers online? How about a mobile app? Do you have one in the first place? And on that mobile app, are they able to troubleshoot and self-serve and find answers to the questions that they're looking for? And when they do, once they do reach out after having done the troubleshooting themselves, are they met with a chatbot, or do they are you assisting them with more subtle assistance with ML and AI, machine learning and artificial intelligence capabilities in the background? How do you keep all this information for your employees and customers up to date? A common challenge that we see is keeping reference information like a return policy or product specs all together in one knowledge base that both your agents and service reps and your consumers can actually use. These are all questions that you should consider when planning for 2020. And as you think about technology investments, pay attention to whether it is a piecemeal solution or a holistic approach. Think about how this technology will increase the quality of service that you're able to provide. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more about the ROI considerations in improving quality of service. When we look at ROI here at Gladly, we kind of take three lenses to this approach. One is experience. How does it impact your customer and agent experience? Second is looking at your labor cost structure. How is that impacted? And then third, looking at technology and the benefits that they give you based on the choices and technology that you make. Now back to the world of knowledge bases and bringing all of the information in one view of the customer. So the investment opportunities that you can make pertaining to macro trend number one, it impacts your experience positively for your customers. It lowers handle time by pulling all the information into one. You're able to answer questions more quickly. You get the context. You're able to provide more personalized service by understanding who the customer is, what they've purchased with you, and what their loyalty status is like. And then what you might see is, and what we typically see is that CSAT scores will continue to rise as you're able to provide that better quality service. The second bucket here is labor. And when we look at using Gladly, for instance, in a customer company, the payback period that we typically see is about 6 months or less. Over the long term, there are a lot of benefits with regards to labor. Upfront, you're able to see that there's a range of labor efficiencies that you're able to experience with better technology, and we see a range from 5 to 40%, and we say 15% is a typical number that you can expect to save. But beyond that in labor, there are also follow-on savings over the long term, and those can include a slower headcount growth because your reps are just more efficient, so you're able to capture more growth with fewer people. And with less hiring, there's also less training costs, less recruiting costs, and then also future license fees and technology as well with having a smaller team handling more workload. Now, third is technology. Many companies that we work with will have a standalone knowledge-based solution, and those licenses can cost up to $50 per agent per month. And of course, as well as savings in your knowledge-based licenses, having a quicker, more efficient way of interacting with your customers will also bring savings of about 5 to 10% in your telephony costs as well. People are on the phone less, you're able to resolve issues more quickly, and so there are a lot of other savings around that as well. The main idea here is to consider costs, but also the long-term and sometimes hidden benefits, both qualitative and quantitative, that you might see over time. Now, Andy, let's take a look at the second trend, shall we?
Let's do. Thanks, Pete. So the second customer service trend that we'll discuss is that customers are using more channels, and increasingly those channels are digital channels such as SMS, online chat, and social media. Now, what we discovered from our study is that consumers typically use about 3 channels to communicate with brands. But what matters more than the number of channels is that consumers expect conversations are seamless and context isn't being lost as consumers switch to the channel of their preference. Also, consumer preferences vary based on your customer's age. So for example, Gen Z consumers, those individuals between the ages of 18 and 24, are the heaviest users of digital channels and hence have a higher contact rate as compared to older consumers. Now, as the average age of brands' customer base shift, contact volume on traditional channels like phone and email have decreased year over year, while volume on digital channels such as SMS, chat, and social media have increased dramatically. Now, Pete, let's dive into some of the key investment opportunities and also return opportunities for delivering on these expectations.
Great, thanks, Andy. Again here, let's talk about investments that you can make in relation to bringing more channels onto your system, onto your solution. One obvious question to ask is, can your customers currently chat, SMS, MMS, use Facebook Messenger to contact you? So one of those questions that we would typically look at in an assessment with companies that we work with is to take a look at what channels are active today and what channels that you might make sense to add tomorrow. And as you bring in more channels, do you have forecasting and staffing models that can handle that additional complexity? As you bring in, let's say, chat and SMS, and then also a couple of social, how do you start thinking about incoming volume? How do you think about the metrics around reporting? And then how does that link up with your staffing in terms of training, in terms of their abilities to handle conversations across different channels at the same time, potentially? And then third, as your company and customer service solution continues to grow, have you thought about consolidating channels into a single unified platform? So on the right-hand side there, what we're seeing is most companies have active channels on phone and on email and sometimes chat. But then there's also this whole new world of SMS, social, and then all kinds of new and future channels that we may not know yet. And it's all about pulling it all together and having a technology that supports all of that, so that you can really put the customer in the center and be able to serve them no matter how they choose to reach out. We know that customers tomorrow will expect to text you a picture of their product and then maybe call you to follow up. So let's take a look at the ROI considerations for a truly omni-channel customer service platform. Now, again, we look at it across the ideas of experience, labor, and technology. In terms of the experience, bringing multiple channels into your platform will affect the agent experience as well as the customer's experience. From an agent standpoint, there's a lot of hidden benefits that you might not think of in the first place. One is that with an omni-channel platform, there may not be any use of tickets, and without tickets, you won't have a ticket from a phone call, for instance, and then a ticket from an email about the same issue. And so you'll be able to save in terms of no duplicate work, no collisions of tickets, and just having agents being able to focus on the customer and resolving their needs, no matter how they reach out and making sense of all of that. Second is the customer's experience. That will also improve as well, because they're going to be able to like the example that I gave above, email something and then call you about the same thing and then maybe SMS you at the same time while the phone call is going on. And so being able to talk to a company like they talk to their friends is going to increase their satisfaction. You're going to see that CSAT score continue to go up. Second is labor. Now, what we see with a unified platform where you bring everything together, everything fits, you don't have to learn one system and then another. Retention rates that we've seen with the companies that we work with continue to go up. And a typical stat that we see is about 10% in heightened retention rates. And as for labor efficiency and utilization, that will also continue to go up. What I haven't talked about is the idea of concurrency as you bring in multiple channels and more digital channels onto your solution. So whereas your service reps may be able to handle one phone call at a time or one email at a time, by introducing digital channels, your service reps will typically be able to handle 2 to 3 chats at the same time. That really increases the amount of customers that can be helped at a given time. That impacts your staffing, your agent utilization, and all of that. And so the assessments that I do with customers and with companies is to take a look at the nuances that pertain to your particular operation and to really think through what the costs and benefits are to making an investment in a new channel, for instance. And then finally, technology. This is where you start to see a lot more savings in telephony as customers are guided towards chats and messengers, which have no telephony costs. Again, contract consolidation will be an ROI quality that you should think about, as you can save upwards of $200 per agent per month. This is all about bringing in let's say a KB, like a knowledge-based contract, and then a phone contract with a phone provider, and then an email contract with an email provider, et cetera, and consolidating it all into one. There's an economy of scale there. There's savings there that that you can think through as you design and budget for a future solution. All right, Andy, let's take a look at that third and final trend for today.
Great, thanks, Pete. So the third macro trend that we'll explore today is the impact that customer service is having on revenues. So increasingly, customer service is having a direct impact on revenues, and many contact centers have transitioned from being purely cost centers to now revenue drivers. What we learned from our study is that 74% of consumers shared that customer service was an influencing factor on their purchase decisions. Furthermore, 54% saying that they've purchased additional products or services based on an agent's recommendation. And then 75% of consumers said that they'd be more likely to make a repeat purchase if a company provided personalized recommendations based on their needs and preferences. Pete, can you maybe share some examples of how brands have been approaching this?
For sure. And I want to share 2 examples of companies shortly that are driving revenues through their contact center or their customer service platform today. But before we do that, let's take a look at a sample business case for how to drive revenue and what that really means. How are we able to use our existing service, our existing reps, and actually drive that revenue in? This example here is the whole premise is quite simple. We take the most important VIP, most loyal, highest spend customers, we put them into one group. And then we also take a look at our sales rep team, and we take a look at the best performing agents and the ones that are most likely to be able to close a sale. We put them in a group. And then we match the VIP customers with what we call dedicated heroes, your highest performing reps. And we put them together and match them based on shared interests, expertise on a particular topic. So whether it be handbags that you're selling or an outdoor gear or a particular sport that they're into, we want to match a dedicated hero or a top performing agent with a customer with some sort of link that they can potentially use to build relationships and to make cross-sell and upsell opportunities more natural. And also, one thing that you might want to consider is the idea of having proactive engagement. Whereas typically when you look at a customer service platform, most of it is reactive, right? You constantly think about forecasting inbound volume, inbound contacts, but think about it on what if you were to flip it on its head and dedicate some time and some portion of your sales reps or your service reps time to start making outbound calls to follow up with a customer. Hey, how did this such and such product that you bought, like a handbag or a water bottle, how did that work out for you? Or if it's a trip that they booked, how was the trip after they come back, right? So this is all about building this lifelong relationship so that you do create those instances where you can make recommendations, where you actually build that relationship and that brand at the same time. So to put that all into a mathematical or quantitative perspective, here's an example of what, what revenues a company can drive. So let's say you have 2 dedicated heroes, right? You dedicate 2 people on your team to focus on relationships and selling. And each of those dedicated heroes serves, let's say, 500 VIP customers. And then let's say those VIP customers in turn buy 1 pair of extra shoes over the course of the year, and they cost, let's say, an average order value, AOV, of about $100. And so by 2 times 500 times 100 gives you $100,000 in potential revenues. This is the idea that the revenues come in rather quickly, and the 2 examples that I'm about to share actually come in factors of this number. So they're in the millions of dollars in range in terms of the revenues that they're driving inwards. So let's take a look at the 2 examples that I have. So I will talk about 2 companies. One is a luxury retailer here in the US, and then one is a sporting goods company. So with regards to the luxury retailer that is driving revenues through their customer service operations, this company generates revenues by tracking its revenues through their service team. And what they did differently from before versus this after state. Before, they were a very traditional operation. They had a typical service team, and they were handling calls that were inbound, and they were resolving and focusing on decreasing handle times and resolving issues as quickly as possible. What they've done now is a little bit different. They are pulling in information about a customer, their loyalty tier and status, their customer lifetime value. What have they spent in their entire time with this luxury retailer, so that they're able to identify who are the VIPs immediately in one view. That's the pulling in and having one single view of the customer. That's that idea. And then second is they're making personal recommendations to accessories based on past purchases and preferences that are also showing up in their customer profile when they call in. This is a great example of showing how your customers, this is a great example of how showing your customers that you know them can actually and materially help bring in the revenues here. Now, I'm gonna move on to this, the second example here. This is a sporting goods retailer. And what they have is a little bit different. They're using their IVR, so the phone system where press 1 for options, etc. So they are using that IVR to gather intent from the customer. And then they're routing those customers with an intent to purchase to a specialized team who have specialized training to make good, appropriate recommendations and to close a sale. And now these reps are then empowered to give discounts and refunds and sort of quote unquote bend the rules a little bit to help meet customers' needs. So this is what they've done that was a little bit different to ensure that they put the customer in the center, and then to drive revenues. And to kind of give you all a benchmark of what these revenues look like, they're in the mid, let's say, $5 to $7 million range per year. So these are significant numbers that we're seeing in terms of revenues that are driven through the customer service center.
Great, thanks, Pete. Now, let's review what we discussed today. So over the course of today's webinar, we discussed several emerging trends and consumer expectations and potential investment areas to improve upon your customer service operations in 2020. Consumers expect a seamless customer experience across customer service channels. They really want and expect and have a great, they want to have a great experience on the channel they're using and a consistent experience when they switch channels. So to address these expectations, brands should think about investing in platforms which enable them to have a single view of the customer across all channels. Also, consumers are increasingly using more digital channels, and they expect brands to be able to serve them on the channel of their preference. So as you introduce new channels, this provides opportunities to optimize your channel mix, increase the efficiency of your staff through concurrency, as Pete mentioned, but while also consolidating channels into a unified platform. Customer service can have a very real and direct impact on your brand's revenue. So by investing in the tools in a platform to enable your customer service team to proactively upsell and cross-sell, you can convert your operation from a cost center today into a revenue generator. So what can you do today to get started in this process? So a few things. Number one, we mentioned the 2019 consumer survey that we've done. That is available on our website. We'll also post a link to that. We encourage you to review that to get further insights into what consumers are expecting and how that might impact your customer service operations. Two, Pete shared a couple examples of different customers, the investments they've made, the return that they've seen based on those investments. We have additional details to share on our customer page. We encourage you to visit gladly.com, our website, where we have some of those case studies posted. And then the last piece being performing a business value assessment. Many of the insights that Pete shared today in our conversation was based on the work that he's done with other Gladly customers to help them to understand the business value of their investments, help them build a budget and expected returns on those investments. So we'd love to continue the conversation here and help you in the process. With that, we now encourage you, if there's any questions that you might have for us, we'd be happy to address those. Feel free to, in your interface, you can go ahead and plug them into the Q&A section. Great, so we've got a couple questions coming in. First, you mentioned briefly using machine learning versus chatbots. Can you elaborate on that and which one might be better? Pete, any thoughts there?
Yeah. Of course, we have worked with companies who have had the same question as well. And our perspective is that chatbot solutions as they stand today are still somewhat limited in capability. They aren't able to gauge intent, for example, and the conversations that you have with a chatbot can feel a little bit rigid and inauthentic. And that's not what you want to represent your brand. What we believe is that using machine learning and artificial intelligence, ML and AI, on the back end can be a better solution. This way, customers aren't thinking that they're interacting with a person per se when they're not, and the customer can can just get to an answer more quickly without even knowing that there's smarter contextual search technology in the background that's working for them.
Great, thanks, Pete. Appreciate it. Okay, we have another question here. So if you were to add chat, SMS, and other digital channels in the future, what are some of the things to consider in forecasting inbound volume and staffing? Pete, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, that's a great question and a common one here as well. As you add more channels to your customer service platform, you will likely see a decline in volume from traditional channels like phone and email, as Andy mentioned, and an increase in SMS, chat, and digital channels. That's natural, and given given millennials and Gen Z will take on a larger and larger portion of your customer base, you're going to have to you're going to have a different channel mix as the years go by. One thing to consider is how quickly your customers are going to embrace these newer channels based on your particular customer base, and closely monitor the metrics like handle times and SLAs for each of those channels. We do see handle times are typically shorter for newer channels, and which will help with staffing. And we typically do assessments with our customers to model out their forecasts based on their specific case. So we do want to make sure that we call out that it's not a race to the bottom in terms of getting handle times closest to zero. The idea here is to understand what the specifics are to your operations, and to build out a customized framework to set goals that are meaningful and make sense for your operations in specific, and to make sure that the handle times you're not just driving down handle times blindly, but to think about the trade-off. If the handle times are going up, but your satisfaction is going up even higher, and you're starting to generate revenues, that is a perfect example of how you want to monitor those metrics. And even though traditional metrics may say that it's a less beneficial, let's say like handle times go up, but if you're seeing that your revenues are shooting through the roof, then that may be a justified decision to make. And so to sum that all up, adding channels, adding SMS, adding future digital channels, yes, your inbound contact volumes may go up, but we will build a custom assessment with you and build that out with you and model it through.
Great, thanks, Pete. So just quickly checking to see if we have any additional questions. Looks like we don't at this time. So with that, I want to thank you for joining our webinar today. We hope you found this useful. As I mentioned, we'd love to continue the conversation with you. If you found the information from today's session helpful, we'd be happy to go deeper with you to understand your customer service goals for 2020, how you budget for that, and then what you could potentially expect in terms of returns. So thanks for your time today, and have a great day.